بمحمد صلى الله عليه وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم ومبغضيهم وغاصبي حقوقهم من ليلنا هذا إلى يوم الدين صلوات محمد اللهم صل على محمد. As we were discussing last night, those qualities which carry a person into the precinct of taqwa, of piety and virtue and righteousness, you will remember that I emphasized and laid considerable stress upon the fact that much more than anything else, it is our behavior and conduct and character and our quality which takes us first into that area which is known as taqwa. By simply indulging in those acts of worship which have been either termed as ritualistic or obligatory, we do not become pious. Some basic changes in human nature and character is necessary before piety is even understood, leave aside adopting it. Well, certain qualities which were of basic essence I have already discussed. But now we are coming to a conclusion as the nights are passing and we are within 3 or 4 nights approaching the closure of these 10 lectures that I have thought of delivering. I should like to wind up tonight the particular trend of the subject that I have so far initiated. Man or a woman does not become what he is automatically. It is wrong to presume that we are what simply our parents were. There are so many elements which work upon us before we become what we are at any particular stage in life. Either it is in the days of our prime or it is in the declining years. Whatever we have succeeded to become is the sum total of various factors in life. It is not simply what we inherit from our father and mothers. Man is made by 3 things essentially. First and foremost, of course, by what he inherits from his parents. Secondly, he becomes what he is by the type of education he receives. Thirdly, a person is molded by the environment in which he lives, by the surrounding which beset him. So, it is not correct to assume that we are simply what we have been destined to be, but nearly 66% of our makeup is of our own choice. Not only that, but sometimes our education and our social environment and family surrounding and friendship and even national atmosphere can influence to certain extent the inherent qualities in us, change us. A person may have grown up in a family which is very narrow-minded, which has got rigid, inflexible laws and codes. But as he is educated and comes into contact with a wider atmosphere, he shuns the influence of the house and accepts the influence coming from outdoors. Changes his attitude, changes his mind. It is here that our community and our society becomes responsible for the generation that we are going to nurse and bring up. The children who are to be born and those who are already born and are in our laps are actually the cause of our prime worry in this country and in this part of the world, and all those parts which are known as Western. But I have a reservation, and you may think of these points at home, because I don't have time to repeat things. As you know, it's not my habit. I simply pass on and on, one after the other, as the points arise in my mind. To consider that we have been very religious before we came to the West is not the whole truth. Many of us are still laboring under this misunderstanding and misconception that wherever we were before we came to England, or we went to America or Canada for that matter, we were better off religiously. That is not correct. Only those have been better who have been given correct training and correct education. Most of those who came from Eastern Africa, for example, or from India and Pakistan, showed their true colors the moment they came here, because religion at home was not religion at all. It was the society and the fear of the society which stopped us from behaving the way we normally behave. The moment we came here, we forgot that God ever existed. But those families which gave correct training to the children by explaining them the essence of religion, those children never went wayward or astray even in this country. They remembered Allah, they remembered their responsibilities, and they performed their responsibilities. Despite all the distracting influences outside, they remain composed and on the path. In less than a decade, those so-called pious people coming from the pious countries, from Raza became Rogers, from Zainab they became Jenny, from Layla they became Lilies, from Jafar they became Joffrey, from Asghar they became Oscar, and within no time it became a matter of pride to monkey the white and ape him and emulate him. So much so that for the sake of some mundane benefits, people were prepared to sacrifice the holiest of all names, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we called ourselves religious. In where? East Africa. Very simple thing I say. And I'm afraid if I went on dwelling on this subject, it might take 1 hour. And the Jamaat has been so kind as to place the biggest clock just before me, so that I could watch every minute as it passes by. And I've got to finish so many things before I finally end my duty and assignment of this Ashra. So I'll try to exercise some restraint. But these are basic things. One might ask as to what is the difference in a name. I say there is a world of difference. Had there been no difference and no effect of the name on our children and ourselves, Muawiyah would not have forced the Muslims to change the name from Ali to Khalid. In fact, there came a time when people, as they came in the court of Muawiyah, did not dare tell Muawiyah that the son was named after Ali. Although it was Ali, they would declare him as Khalid, so that Muawiyah would be pleased. And if anyone said it is Ali, his monthly assistance and stipend would be stopped officially. I'm asking only one question. Was Muawiyah a fool? Did he not understand that name would make no difference? No. He understood that the name would make a difference. Every time a boy, a young man, remembers that his name is Muhammad, or his name is Ali, or his name is Murtada, or his name is Ja'far, or his name is Hassan or Ahmad, every time he remembers it, at least he remembers the sanctity of reference. That is why once Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamu alayhi had a visitor. A friend came with one small child, his own son, and Imam asked him what is his name. And the fellow says, Ya Ibn Rasulillah, I have named him Muhammad. His name is. The moment Imam heard the name, it was not the name of the Prophet as such, he was named after the Prophet. But the moment Imam heard Muhammad, he bowed down and said Muhammad, Muhammad, Muhammad. And the riwayat says he bowed down to an extent that his head came near to his lap. And then he said Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And then told the father that since you have named him after the Prophet, teach him the manners of the Prophet, so that the name of the Prophet is glorified. And remember, deal with him politely, lovingly, so that you show respect for the name Muhammad. And not in this riwayah, but there have been instances of other people like ulama who named their sons after the Prophet and never called them by the name if ghusl janabat was wajib upon them. Father has a ghusl wajib upon him and he wants to call his son. He would not call him if the name is Muhammad, because he would not like to cite the name of Muhammad while ghusl has not yet been performed. So, the idea is, it might not be important to assume a name, but it is very important to change a Muslim name into a kafir name. It's very important. It reflects the idea behind the mind. So it's not being religious in East Africa or in India or Pakistan. Conversely, we have seen and found religious tendencies increasing in this part of the world. We have seen this and we continue observing it. The religious tendencies increasing in this part of the world. Taharat and Najasat becoming more meaningful here. And people are concerned about the welfare, and primarily about the welfare of their children who are growing and growing fast. And again there, with special emphasis upon the girls. It will all depend upon the education we give them and the surrounding and the environment in which we put them. No taqwa can enter our household, no piety, no amount of majlises can help. You can import the best of preachers for this mimbar from all over the world, No change can be instituted unless a change occurs in the education and the environment. This is my message tonight as I close this chapter, and from tomorrow I begin another one. Have we ever thought, can only these lectures change? They might give a jolt, but they won't change. The change has got to come from the house, from the education, and from the society. Remember one thing, that unless religion and all its message travels together at the same pace as evil is traveling today, if not less, the same speed, unless virtue and piety and the message of Islam travels together with the evil that is spreading at the same pace, if not faster, we cannot rescue our generation to come. Have I considered watching a film on a television? This world of here does not tell you from television that there must be a promiscuous society. Does it tell you? I haven't heard. The television would never tell you that live this permissive way of life. But it only portrays it. And by portraying it, shows you the beautiful part of it. Attracts the woman and the man. Remember, whatever you read and whatever you see has an influence upon you. When you read a novel or a book, you automatically decide to select one as your hero, and you identify yourself with him, don't you? It is automatic. When you look at the screen, one of the actors automatically, gradually, a woman or a boy or a man, becomes your hero, and you begin to identify yourself with him or her. I remember my young days, when sometimes I don't have a collar tonight, but I sometimes used to come out with my collar standing like donkey's asses, ears open from behind, and walk in the street. And then sometimes it became a vogue to pull out the pocket upside down here, this way. And sometimes to put a handkerchief and show the part of the handkerchief hanging out. And don't tell me who I was following, I can't tell you. It's a secret. But definitely somebody was working on my mind. There was a devil, and I was a young man, upcoming. I used to talk that way. I used to behave that way. I used to speak that way. I used to utter that way. I used to behave that way. Every time unconsciously identifying myself with the hero I had chosen, either from the book or from the film or from the screen that I viewed. And this was where the hairdo and styles changed. And every time you ask a boy, how is it? He says, this is because now so and so. I can't take the names of those, I rather take the names of Aimma here. But each hairdo was known as a special cut, with the name of a particular actor. It is that cut, and this cut, finally we got it completely cut. But the identity was always maintained, and identification is there. Of whatever is portrayed on the television, however indirect it may be and subtle, it has a message which can't escape. And sometimes it becomes shameful and most embarrassing to sit before the TV screen with your own wife, your own daughters, or your parents sitting there, because the scene they portray are such which in their society may be guiltless and innocent. For us it is a tragedy. But it is a subtle way of teaching us how to leave Islam, forget the values of Islam, and accept the values of kufr. Now after this, when we are all the time glued to that medium, tell me what a madrasa on one Sunday can do. Tell me what 12 majlises or 40 majlises per year could do. Unless we stop that, and the environment's influence, which cannot be stopped, can at least be explained to the children that whatever you see or hear there, you do not accept. We even don't care to tell our children that, with the result that our children have lost the spirit of obedience to parents, because they have been told that when I go home, I tell my mother, "Mother, mind your own business." For a child bred in the environment of kufr, it is very easy to speak up against the father or the mother, to rebuff, to rebuke, and to tell the mother, "Mind your own business," or to consign the old parent to old home. In Mombasa, we used to have such homes for the old people, and the name was so apt given to that home that every time I passed from there, I really remembered it, and still I can't forget. The name given to that lodge was Sunset Lodge, because the sun of that man is now setting. He is now going. Whatever he had to do, he did. It is now a sunset lodge, and the old men are there consigned, and the women. Parents are there. And there is not a slightest feeling of scruple in the minds of the children who have done it. When your father is there, you keep quiet as long as he is speaking. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullah has said this. In Bihar al-Anwar, Majlisi Allah Rahmah has said that no generation can be saved unless deen is taught right from the cradle upward. At home, not only in the Jamaat's madrasa. Jamaat's madrasa is an obligation and ihsan upon us. We were never told that Jamaat would teach you. We were told that you should teach. So therefore, there is a society which is emerging under the garb and guise of Islam. Inside the essence is essence of kufr. We must see that the behavior of our children is Islamic. We must not only be proud of the way they speak English, Cockney. We must be proud if they can read Quran properly. The language of Allah. We must not be proud if you find him a very smart sportsman only. But we must be proud of that boy if we see him stand when his father arrives. We must be proud that the boy knows what are the ethics of Islam. We must see the boys and girls respect their parents, and not only parents, but every elder of the community. If we see that, we must be proud. We must see love among people, and that is why Imam Zainul Abidin al-Islam's mother died at the time soon after pregnancy and delivery. That means as Imam Zainul Abidin al-Islam was born, after few days Shahrbanu is reported to have died. She wasn't there in Karbala. But Imam Hussein's other wives were there, whom our fourth Imam considered as mother, naturally mother. And there is a very interesting incident in history, that Imam never sat for lunch or dinner without his mother being there. Not the real mother. stepmother. But he would insist that my mother must be there. And when the mother came, not eat, would rather serve mother. And the mother would say, son, don't you like to eat with me? Imam would say, I do. That is why I insist. But you will eat first, and whatever is left over, I shall eat. Then one of the ashab and companions asked our Imam. He said, your mother would feel honored and respected if you eat together with her. You know what Imam answered? He said, I would very much like to eat together with her, but I fear only one thing. Sometimes there are 3 or 4 dishes. I only fear that my mother may extend her hand for a particular dish, and I might extend my hand simultaneously. I only fear to extend my hand to a dish which my mother would like to have first. I therefore rather not eat. Allow her to eat everything that she wants. Whatever is left over, I shall eat. But it can't be that our hands sometimes coincide for one dish. I might not catch her eye. If I catch her eye, I would know what she is directing her hand to. But if I don't, it can happen that my hand may go first, and to pick something first from a dish from which my mother also wants to partake would be a sin for me, a sin. So in a society, there are 3 categories. Either I am equal to you in age, or I am older than you, or I am younger than you. Can there be any fourth? Either we are equal in age, or someone is my elder and someone is younger. Here in this society, in an Islamic society, our Imam says that there cannot be an equilibrium and there cannot be an Islamic society unless, basically and first and foremost, it is understood that if one is older than you, he is better than you. If one is younger than you, he is better than you. And if one is equal to you in age, he is still better than you. So somebody asked Ibn Rasulullah, how can that be? He said, look, if he is older than you, consider him better because he must have had the opportunities of doing good much more than you had. If you have lived for 10 years, he has lived for 15. Therefore, he has had 5 years of doing thawab and good. If he is younger, he is better than you because he must have committed lesser evils than you have committed. And if he is equal to you, then you know your own sins, but you don't know his sins. Therefore, give him the benefit of doubt. I only wish that we develop such a society and pray for that society from Allah بحق Hussein ibn Ali, who we have assembled to remember, and for that pious blood which was shed on the plains of Karbala under the scorching heat of Arabia, for the sake of Islam, for the sake of maintaining that behavior and conduct which is the root. Everything else is a superstructure. The infrastructure is khulq, akhlaq, our behavior and our ways of controlling the evils from entering into our society, right from the days when we have tender minds. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.